conscience. Yes, it definitely hurts my conscience, Arnab, but let me tell you that what is happening in Uttar Pradesh, what is happening in Akhilesh Yadav's governance, I think they are they know very well that India is very sensitive to communal problems, and they are using it as a guard, as a shield, to just deny what has been happening and denying themselves. They know what has happened to Durga Shakti is absolutely wrong, but they are just using the communal shield.
Why don't you step up? Why don't you step up? I'm sorry, why don't you step up? Why don't you are a vocal person in your party? Why don't you tell Mr. Karunanidhi and Mr. MP Stalin and all the others that listen, we have to step up, and this has now become a national issue, and we have to forget our narrow considerations as UP allies. If Mulayam is putting pressure not to act against Durga Shakti, let us build up pressure for Durga Shakti.
Absolutely.
Why don't you do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Ajay Bose, you second that.
Absolutely, I second that. You know, I'm just surprised.
I will put in a word.
I'm surprised about the lack of reaction from the political class as a whole, from the political parties. This has been going on. Look at the chilling sequence of events. This girl, this amazingly brave woman officer, has been confiscating lorry after lorry after lorry of illegal mining material. Yeah, we knew that she was going to take a fall. We all were very worried that she was really standing up against the mafia. And look how they did it. They very cleverly embroiled her in some kind of communal problem. Yeah. But what I'm saying is,
you put a charge against her, make her face.
Absolutely, very cleverly.
Make it, put her own entire career in doubt.
Absolutely. But what I'm just shocked is that none of the parties have come out strongly enough. Yes, private conversation, they say it's shocking. But I don't understand what is keeping the BJP, for instance, from taking a much tougher line. Because the BJP is not even involved in this. Yes. BJP is not being supported by Mulayam. Why aren't your senior leaders who make all kinds of statements, why can't you take a stand and say, very openly, senior leadership should say this is shocking, this should be stopped. I don't understand why the Congress is not even saying it.
You're not going to look for Mulayam Singh Yadav support in the after the next elections. But
certainly not.
Why is it always politics first? Why?
I mean, it's shocking.
Why? I'm amazed that Ajay Bose has asked us this question. But very well, I have already, in answering Shailesh Gandhi, I have said certainly the party has taken a very serious call. Yeah. But you came up with, and I was about to say, the kind of inference that Arnab drew on this matter between the Samajwadi Party and the Congress was absolutely right.
Is it obvious?
No, absolutely right. And having heard that, after that, when the question comes back to the BJP, I'm tempted to go back to that argument, because the Congress sometimes has shown extra energy in trying to even protect delinquent officers. Here is a legitimate case of an officer who desperately needs help, and they don't want to. And therefore, your inference seems absolutely possible.
I totally agree with that. I'm surprised that why is the BJP, which does not have that, which does not have that,
to be fair,
have or not to have is not the issue, Mr. Bose.
No, to be fair, in this particular case, it is the central government which can intervene using the All India Services Discipline and Appeal Rules Act 1969. And I began the news hour tonight by saying the Prime Minister's office can, if they want, this very instant, act for Durga Shakti. If it compromises your what happens in the Parliament session, so be it. What is the worth of trade-off? Why would you trade off on this case? Khusboo, I missed out that question to you. Why don't you put counter pressure on the government? Put the pressure from Chennai. If they put the pressure from Lucknow, you put the counter pressure from Chennai and say, let's have justice for Durga Shakti.
Arnab, we're definitely going to talk about it. It's just not that one party has to put a pressure. Every time I have been on air, and there's a problem which has been, we have always taken up a national issue, and I think what is happening to Durga Shakti is a national issue, because she is an IAS officer not only in Uttar Pradesh, but I think it's about a woman of this country. It's about a woman of this country. It's about a very upright officer of our country, very young officer.
It's about an IAS officer. It's about a woman IAS officer. It's about an IAS officer being persecuted by a state government whose persecution is turned a blind eye to by the central government. My last question here is, और Ravidas Mehrotra जी और बुक्कल नवाब जी, मैं चाहता हूं कि आप ये बात सुने और आप जाके अखिलेश यादव को आज रात को कहें कि आप इतनी बड़ी गलती क्यों कर रहे हैं. सारा देश एकजुट हो गया है दुर्गा शक्ति के पीछे. और मेरा आखिरी सवाल जो है, my final question today,
ये सस्पेंड रिवोक हो जाएगा, कल तक रिवोक हो जाएगा ये
सस्पेंशन रिवोक हो रहा है,
अपोलोजाइज करना है
एक्सपेक्टेड कि ये इस तरह से
लोगों ने सोचा होगा गवर्नमेंट शुड आस्क फॉर अपॉलजी फॉर हैविंग persecuted her on wrong grounds and to have to mock her, shame her and so on much before she even has finished 5 full years of her service. I think it's thorough injustice done, and therefore the Samajwadi Party and the Uttar Pradesh government can just not revoke the suspension and quietly pass off as though everything is normal again. No, they owe an apology to this upright officer who had the courage to stand up.
And I want to ask the last question. My last question is to Uma Shankar. You know, Mr. Uma Shankar, I'm glad you've come on the Newshour tonight. We've heard a lot about you, we've read about you. And it was a very brief introduction which I gave at the start. But it is because of officers like you. Uma Shankar never accepted unpopular policy decisions. He never accepted bribes, inducements. He has single-handedly, Uma Shankar has unearthed many scams. He's done groundbreaking work. How many times were you posted? Were you transferred, Uma Shankar? I think you and Ashok Khemka have a competition with each other on how many times you managed to get yourself. How many times did they transfer you?
19, but it happens like within 24 hours every time. 24 hours, that is all I get. In the recent past, I got 2 transfers on 108 days, exactly 108 days each, and it's the same case now with every government. And yes, go ahead, Arnab.
Now, can I just ask you, Uma, that when you are seeing this groundswell for Durga Shakti, I was asking Ashok Khemka yesterday, but I want to ask you. You see the whole country is coming together on Durga Shakti. How do you feel? Because you have suffered for over 20 years. They have persecuted you. How do you feel today when you see this become a groundswell that the whole country is talking about? What is your reaction?
Yeah, Arnab, I'm so happy there is a groundswell. I'm so happy Times Now has taken it up. But we also have a realization in the bureaucracy that the press coverage for a young IAS officer is not good in the long run. It's not good in the long run. You will publish it and the whole country will be happy about it, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks down the line, everybody will forget about it. The politicians know it pretty well, that public has a very poor memory. So they will forget about it. They will start witch hunting that officer, and it's not good for her. So, but the groundswell is good. This has not been there for so many years. Nobody has ever bothered about an honest IAS officer in this fashion. So this is very, very good for the nation, and especially now a communal angle has been given to this episode, to an young IAS officer's good work.
That's right.
Unless the country wakes up and puts a break to it by going for a systematic system reform. We need to take this civil servants, IAS officers and also IPS officers from the control of the local politicians, and we must put them under the control of a civil service commission, preferably a multi-member commission.
Yes.
Multi-member commission like UPSC. If we can put them under a civil service commission, that will be a long-term solution. Otherwise we will be discussing this and afterwards we will forget about it. The nation will forget about it, but these officers will silently suffer for the rest of their career. And please remember, in this case, all the political parties are the same. Here I find Mrs. Nirmala speaking very good, Mrs. Khusboo speaking very good. I'm so happy, but then at the end of it, every political party wants to keep honest IAS officers at bay. They want to support only the officers who are ready to sign between the lines. No questions asked.
Right.
Yes, Arnab, go ahead.
Absolutely.
Khusboo, you said that the Durga suspension will be revoked tomorrow. How do you know?
No, because I said so is because Uttar Pradesh government definitely wouldn't have expected that it's going to make such a national headlines. They wouldn't have expected Durga Shakti bringing in so much of support for her will be pouring in from all over the country. They would have just thought that they'll give a communal angle to it and try to hush up the whole issue. But I'm sure with the amount of support that has been pouring in for her, they will be under the pressure to think and revoke the suspension. And I'm sure that silently all the political parties will be coming together for the support of Durga Shakti. Definitely there will be a support for her.
Well, I first of all want to thank all of you for joining me on that debate, and I know that heart of heart, everyone deeply feels for what has happened to Durga Shakti. And I know that she's a young IAS officer, she's under pressure somewhere, but if she's watching or her family is watching, they should know that Durga Shakti is not alone. And it is the media's responsibility also to take it forward. I take that very well, Uma. I think now the ball is in everyone's court. The ball is in your court, where the Durga Shakti's case becomes your case as well, where the her fight becomes yours as well. Thank you for joining me on debate number 1 on the Newshour tonight. Thank you.